Welcome to TKX Stories, where we bring you the most engaging and thought-provoking tales through animation and voiceover. Today, we're exploring a profound story by the acclaimed Ursula K. Le Guin, titled The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Picture a city of unparalleled beauty and unending joy, a place where every celebration is vibrant and life seems perfect. This is Omelas, a city where happiness flows freely. But beneath this seemingly flawless society lies a dark secret. The prosperity of Omelas and the happiness of its citizens depend on the suffering of a single, unfortunate child. Join us as we delve into this compelling narrative, uncovering the moral complexities and ethical dilemmas that define Omelas. We'll explore the choices made by its citizens and the haunting reality that supports their joy. As we journey through this story, we'll confront the stark contrast between a beautiful facade and its underlying cost. Will you be able to reconcile Omelas' splendor with its hidden price? Let's discover the answers together in this thought-provoking tale. With a clamor of bells that set the swallows soaring, the festival of summer came to the city of Omelas. Bright towers stood tall by the sea, with sunlight shimmering off the water in the harbor. Flags adorned the boats that gently rocked in the docks, while people poured into the streets, moving like currents in a river. The streets were alive, flowing between houses with red-tiled roofs and painted walls, under avenues of ancient trees, past grand parks and public buildings. Processions formed, some solemn, as the older generations dressed in their long, dignified robes walked with quiet grace. Others were lively, with merry women carrying their children, talking and laughing as music pulsed through the air. Children darted about, their playful shouts rising above the rhythmic sound of gongs and tambourines. The people of Omelas all moved toward the northern edge of the city, where the green fields awaited. Here, boys and girls, naked in the warm sunlight, prepared their restless horses for a grand race. The horses, full of excitement, wore nothing but braided streamers in their manes, shimmering in gold, silver, and green. The scene was one of pure joy, untainted by worry or fear. Far off, the mountains encircled the city, their peaks capped with white gold snow, glowing against the deep blue sky. The banners marking the race course snapped in the gentle wind, adding to the cheerful atmosphere that filled the city of Omelas. In this opening scene, we are presented with an idyllic vision of a city full of joy and celebration. Omelas is described as a place of beauty, vitality, and community, where the harmony of nature and human life is at its peak. However, even in this seemingly perfect world, there is a subtle question. Can such joy exist without a hidden cost? This initial description sets the stage for the deeper moral and ethical dilemmas that will later be revealed. The reader is invited to imagine the city's happiness and to question whether it is genuine or built on something unseen. But how can one describe joy? The people of Omelas were not simple folk. They were not naive or childlike, despite the overwhelming sense of happiness that filled the air. They were thoughtful, intelligent, and passionate people. Though their smiles shone brightly, they were not shallow. No king ruled over them, no slaves served them, and no soldiers marched through the streets. In Omelas, there were no stock exchanges, no advertisements, no secret police. They lived without the need for violence, greed, or oppression. Yet they were not primitive or unsophisticated. They knew the depth of life's complexities, and they lived with full awareness of their choices. The people of Omelas had discarded the things that caused suffering and clung only to what was necessary and undestructive. Comfort and luxury were theirs, but in moderation and never at the cost of another's freedom. The absence of some modern technology, cars and helicopters, did not mean they were lacking. In fact, they enjoyed marvelous devices that hadn't yet been invented in other places. Yet, even with all this, one must ask, is such happiness too good to be true? In this second scene, we get a glimpse into the minds of the citizens of Omelas. Unlike a utopia filled with ignorant, carefree individuals, the people here are complex and aware of their world. This adds an intriguing layer to the story, suggesting that their joy is a choice rather than a natural state of ignorance. The city functions without the traditional structures of power or oppression, making it appear as an enlightened society. However, the reader is nudged to remain skeptical. Can a society truly achieve such perfection without a dark undercurrent? This foreshadows the revelation that will challenge the notion of Omelas' perfection. As we imagine the world of Omelas, we might find it difficult to fully accept its perfection. Surely, some will say, there must be something dark lurking beneath the surface. There is a temptation to dismiss such happiness as mere fantasy, too clean, too joyful to be real. And so, the narrator offers the reader a choice. If Omelas seems too serene, too goody-goody, perhaps they could add something darker, something more primitive, if that would make it easier to believe. Maybe a touch of violence, or an orgy, or perhaps even some drugs. The narrator toys with these ideas, suggesting that perhaps Omelas could have droz, a drug that enhances both mental clarity and physical pleasure. Yet even this vice is not destructive or habit-forming, leaving the people free to indulge if they wish, or abstain without consequence. The people of Omelas understand what is necessary and what is unnecessary but harmless. They embrace freedom without succumbing to corruption. This scene serves to address the skepticism that might arise in the reader's mind. It directly challenges us to consider whether we can believe in such happiness without some form of darkness or indulgence. The introduction of droz, an imagined drug, represents how society might handle temptation. The freedom to indulge in pleasure without consequence contrasts sharply with the moral constraints seen in most societies, raising questions about how much control or restraint is necessary to achieve happiness. It also serves to make the world of Omelas feel more human, even in its fantastical perfection. The Festival of Summer is not merely a day of festivities. It represents the unity and joy shared by all the people of Omelas. The processions, the music, the races, everything speaks of celebration. The city is alive with laughter, dance, and music. Children, sticky-faced from sweet treats, run freely among the adults, while elders sit and smile at the scene. It is not just an ordinary day of fun. It is the expression of a deeper sense of contentment and connection to one another. As the trumpets blare from the pavilion and the riders ready their horses for the race, the city collectively holds its breath. There is a sense of pride, hope, and belonging in the air. The youths, with their shining hair adorned with flowers, prepare to mount their horses. The crowd ripples like grass in the wind, eager for the race to begin. The festival is not only a celebration of life and summer, it is a reminder of the bond shared by the people of Omelas, a bond that extends beyond joy to something profound and enduring. This scene deepens the portrayal of Omelas as a utopia where the celebration is not merely superficial. The festival symbolizes the unity and shared purpose of the community, highlighting how joy is intertwined with the collective spirit of the people. The imagery of children, flowers, and music evokes a sense of timeless joy. However, the reader is also reminded that this happiness is fragile. Its purity depends on a darker secret yet to be revealed. The unity of the people is genuine, but it raises the question, at what cost is this joy sustained? Amidst the festive atmosphere, where joy and laughter fill the air, there sits a child on the edge of the crowd, alone and quiet. The child, perhaps 9 or 10 years old, plays a simple wooden flute. The tune is sweet, delicate, and haunting. People pause to listen as they pass by, drawn to the melody, but no one speaks to the child. They merely smile and continue on their way, careful not to disrupt the fragile magic that seems to envelop the child. The child playing the flute is utterly absorbed in the music, their dark eyes focused on the tune as if nothing else in the world exists. The simplicity of the scene, the lone child, the wooden flute, the crowd's gentle acknowledgement adds a touch of wistfulness to the otherwise jubilant atmosphere. The music, sweet as it is, feels like a private moment of reflection in the midst of public celebration. This scene introduces a subtle contrast to the overwhelming joy of the festival. The child's solitary music offers a quiet, introspective moment that stands apart from the collective festivities. While the city is bursting with celebration, this child's music brings a pause, a moment of personal expression within a communal environment. The scene hints at the individuality within the collective, suggesting that even in a perfect society, personal solitude and reflection have their place. It also foreshadows the more profound theme of isolation that will emerge later in the story. The quiet moment is interrupted as a trumpet sounds from the pavilion near the starting line of the race. The sound is sharp, commanding, and filled with anticipation. The horses rear on their slender legs, their energy barely contained. Some neigh in response, echoing the excitement in the air. The young riders, serious and composed, gently stroke the necks of their horses, whispering to them, "Quiet now, my beauty. Easy there, my hope," they murmur, calming their steeds with practiced hands. As the horses settle, the riders form neat rows along the starting line. The crowds lining the racecourse sway like tall grass in the breeze, their excitement palpable. The festival of summer has truly begun with the race, and in this moment, the people of Omelas celebrate the purity of life, the thrill of youth, and the beauty of nature. The horses, the riders, the spectators, all become part of a harmonious whole, united by the festival and the joy it brings. This scene, filled with the anticipation of the race, symbolizes the vitality and vigor of Omelas. The horses, a symbol of grace and power, represent the youthful energy that courses through the city during the festival. The riders, calm and poised, demonstrate the control and harmony that exist within Omelas, both in nature and in society. This moment of unity between humans, animals, and the natural world speaks to the idealistic balance that the city strives to maintain. Yet beneath the surface, the question of how this harmony is achieved begins to linger. The festival continues with an almost dreamlike quality. Everywhere, there are smiles, laughter, and vibrant energy. The air is filled with the scent of fresh flowers, delicious food, and the warmth of the sun. Families gather, children run freely, their faces sticky with sweets, while the elderly sit together, exchanging stories of festivals past. The city is a living portrait of joy, painted in bright colors and alive with the sounds of music, laughter, and conversation. The people of Omelas are not naive, despite the idyllic setting. They are intelligent, cultured, and wise. Their happiness does not come from ignorance, but from a profound understanding of life's pleasures. There is no guilt in their joy, no sorrow in their peace. It seems that Omelas has found a way to balance intellect with delight, maturity with bliss. Every person in Omelas shares in this festival of life, where everyone is free to be at peace, where everyone is free to love and be loved. This scene portrays Omelas as a utopia where joy and wisdom coexist. The happiness of its citizens is not childish or simple, but is instead the result of a conscious choice to embrace the pleasures of life. There is a clear emphasis on the balance of joy and knowledge, suggesting that true happiness in this society stems from both emotional and intellectual fulfillment. However, the perfection of this scene leaves the reader wondering what price is being paid for this seemingly flawless society. But not everything in Omelas is as perfect as it seems. Beneath the surface of this radiant city lies a terrible secret. In a dark, dank basement under one of the city's grand buildings, there is a small room. The room is barely more than a closet, 3 paces long, 2 paces wide, with dirt for a floor. It is dimly lit by the faintest slivers of light that seep through cracks in the walls. In one corner stand 2 filthy mops and a rusted bucket. The smell is unbearable. In this room, a child sits hunched in the corner, filthy and naked. The child's body is frail, its skin stretched tight over protruding bones. It is so malnourished that its belly is distended, its legs thin and wasted. The child is too weak to move much, too afraid to do anything but sit there, terrified of the mops that loom in the corner. The child used to cry for help, but now it only makes small, pitiful noises, having long given up hope of rescue. The revelation of the child in the basement shatters the illusion of Omelas' perfection. This scene introduces the moral dilemma at the heart of the story. The happiness of the entire city depends on the suffering of one innocent child. The image of the child, imprisoned in filth and misery, is a stark contrast to the joy and beauty of Omelas above ground. This contrast forces the reader to confront difficult questions about justice, morality, and the true cost of happiness. It challenges the notion of a perfect society and introduces the unsettling reality that the joy of the many is built on the suffering of the few. Or, in this case, the one. The people of Omelas know about the child. They all know. It is not a secret. In fact, it is part of the social fabric of the city. From time to time, people come to look at the child. Some come once, while others return again and again, unable to forget what they've seen. Those who visit stare at the child with a mixture of horror, pity, and confusion. The child cowers from their gaze, terrified of the eyes that watch but never help. This child's existence is not merely known to the people, it is essential. The happiness, prosperity, and peace of Omelas depend entirely on the misery of this single child. If the child were to be freed, if it were to be shown kindness or care, all the beauty and joy in Omelas would vanish. The people understand this, some deeply, others vaguely, but they accept it. For the city to thrive, For the festival of summer to continue, the child must suffer. Here, the story reaches its moral core. The people's knowledge of the child and their acceptance of its suffering brings the question of complicity to the forefront. Omelas is a paradise, but only because the citizens have made a pact with cruelty. This moral paradox reflects real-world dilemmas about societal happiness being built on the suffering of others, raising questions about exploitation, privilege, and ethical responsibility. The narrative forces readers to consider their own society and the hidden suffering that might exist to maintain their own comfort. When the children of Omelas are old enough to understand the truth, they are brought to see the child. It is a rite of passage, a moment that forces them to confront the complexity of their society. Many of them are horrified, sickened, and some weep openly. The sight of the child shakes their idealistic view of the world, and they struggle to reconcile the joy of Omelas with the suffering that makes it possible. Some leave the room in silent rage, others in tears. They go home, grieve for the child, and slowly, gradually, they learn to accept it. Over time, they come to understand that there is nothing they can do. If the child were freed, their whole way of life would collapse. Most citizens of Omelas make peace with this knowledge. They tell themselves that the child is too far gone to be helped, that it wouldn't even know how to live in the sunlight anymore. And so they go on with their lives, carrying the weight of this terrible knowledge in the back of their minds. The reactions of Omelas' citizens, especially the youth, highlight the emotional and ethical burden they bear. This scene delves into how people come to terms with their complicity in injustice. Some may feel anger and sorrow, but over time, they rationalize their inaction by convincing themselves that they are powerless. This mirrors real-world situations where people often become desensitized to suffering around them or justify it by believing that change is impossible. The scene also touches on the theme of growing up, facing harsh truths that shatter childhood ideals of fairness and perfection. As time passes, the people of Omelas learn to live with the knowledge of the child. They may feel a brief pang of guilt or sorrow when they think of it, but they push those feelings aside. They go on with their lives, attending festivals, raising families, creating art, and contributing to the vibrant and joyous life of the city. They know that their happiness is fragile, built on a foundation of suffering, but they have convinced themselves that this is the way things must be. There is no rebellion, no outcry to change the system. Even though they are aware of the moral cost of their happiness, they continue to accept it. The weight of their complicity sits heavy in their hearts, but they have learned to bear it, to compartmentalize it. They live with the knowledge, but they do not act on it. Life in Omelas continues, bright and beautiful on the surface, but dark and tainted underneath. This scene speaks to the human tendency to normalize injustice over time. The people of Omelas have grown accustomed to the suffering of the child, much like how societies often grow desensitized to inequality or suffering that is out of sight. It reflects how easy it is to become complicit in systems of oppression when personal comfort and happiness are at stake. The citizen's resignation suggests the moral compromises people are willing to make for the sake of preserving their own lives, even if it means turning a blind eye to cruelty. But not everyone can accept this truth. Every so often, a person, usually a young man or woman, but sometimes an older adult, makes a different choice. They do not weep or rage. nor do they go home and try to forget. Instead, they leave. They walk away from Omelas. These individuals do not leave with a grand farewell or with any certainty of where they are going. They simply walk out of the city's gates and keep going, leaving behind the beauty and joy of Omelas and the terrible burden of the child's suffering. They walk through the farmlands and into the unknown, heading toward a place that no one can imagine, a place that may not even exist. They do not come back. No one knows where they go. It is possible that they find some other land, a place without such a terrible price for happiness. Or perhaps they walk forever into darkness, seeking a different kind of truth, one that does not require the suffering of another. The ones who walk away represent a refusal to accept the moral compromise at the heart of Omelas. They reject the idea that happiness must be built on someone else's suffering, even if it means abandoning the paradise they know. This act of walking away can be seen as a form of rebellion, a quiet but powerful refusal to participate in an unjust system. It symbolizes the courage it takes to leave comfort behind in the pursuit of a deeper, more ethical truth. Their departure raises questions about what it means to live a moral life and whether it is possible to find happiness without sacrificing others. As the ones who walk away leave Omelas, they do so in silence. Their departure is not marked by fanfare or recognition. It is a solitary journey. They do not announce their leaving or seek validation from others. Instead, they quietly slip away, blending into the shadows of the city as they step beyond its boundaries. The journey they undertake is one of introspection and solitude. The night envelops them as they walk through the quiet village streets, past homes glowing with the warm light of contented families. Each step away from Omelas is a step into the unknown, a journey that is as much about escaping a moral compromise as it is about seeking something greater, something more just. The silence of their departure is poignant. It speaks to the weight of the decision they have made and the gravity of the knowledge they carry. They do not speak of their reasons or their hopes. Their actions alone convey their rejection of Omelas's price of happiness. The silence of the departure underscores the profound internal conflict faced by those who choose to leave Omelas. Their decision to walk away is deeply personal and introspective, reflecting a refusal to accept the moral cost of the city's happiness. The lack of outward display or explanation highlights the solitary nature of their moral struggle and the isolation that often accompanies such profound decisions. Their quiet departure serves as a powerful commentary on the nature of conscience and the personal sacrifices made for the sake of ethical integrity. As these individuals venture into the darkness beyond Omelas, their destination remains a mystery. They head towards the mountains or the dark fields, where the path becomes less defined and the landscape transforms into an expanse of uncertainty. The further they go, the less tangible their destination becomes. There are no guarantees of what they will find. Some might hope for a new land, a utopia free from the moral compromises of Omelas. Others may simply seek solace in the act of leaving, finding peace in the journey itself rather than the destination. The journey could lead to a new world, or it might lead to an endless quest for meaning in the void. The ambiguity of their destination reflects the nature of their quest. It symbolizes the search for an ideal or truth that is beyond the reach of ordinary life, an attempt to find a place where happiness and justice are not mutually exclusive. The unknowable destination of those who walk away represents the uncertainty and complexity of seeking a moral and just existence. It illustrates the courage required to pursue an ideal without knowing where it will lead, emphasizing the value of the journey itself over the certainty of reaching a specific goal. Their path into the unknown symbolizes the human quest for a deeper understanding and a more equitable way of life, beyond the confines of established norms and accepted compromises. Back in Omelas, life continues as usual. The city carries on with its festival and daily routines, seemingly unaffected by the departure of those who chose to leave. The revelry and joy persist. The streets are filled with laughter and music, and the child in the cellar remains as it has always been. The departure of these individuals does not create a noticeable void in the city. Their absence is felt more deeply by those who understand the true cost of their happiness rather than by the city itself. Omelas remains a place of beauty and delight, continuing to thrive despite the loss of a few souls who could not reconcile their conscience with the price of the city's prosperity. The indifference of Omelas to the departure highlights the disconnect between the city's external happiness and the internal moral struggle of its inhabitants. It underscores the theme that the happiness of the many can often overshadow the suffering of the few. The city's continued vibrancy, despite the loss of those who walked away, serves as a critique of how society can perpetuate injustices while maintaining an illusion of contentment and prosperity. The departure of individuals from Omelas brings to light the profound moral dilemma at the heart of the city's existence. The stark contrast between the city's jubilant atmosphere and the suffering of the child in the cellar forces a reflection on the nature of morality and the cost of happiness. The moral dilemma faced by the citizens of Omelas is laid bare by the choice of those who leave. It raises questions about the ethical implications of collective happiness built on the suffering of an individual. The disparity between the joy experienced by the majority and the pain endured by the child prompts a deep examination of the value and cost of human happiness. The moral dilemma reflected in the story serves as a powerful commentary on the nature of ethical compromise and the cost of collective happiness. It challenges the reader to confront uncomfortable truths about the sacrifices made for the greater good and to question the morality of systems that benefit the many at the expense of the few. The story forces an examination of whether true happiness can be justified if it is built on a foundation of suffering and exploitation. As those who walk away continue their journey into the unknown, they are engaged in a profound existential quest. Their decision to leave Omelas is driven by a search for meaning and a deeper understanding of existence. They seek a place where happiness is not tainted by ethical compromise, where their moral integrity can be maintained without the sacrifice of another's suffering. The quest they embark upon is not just a physical journey, but a metaphorical one, representing their inner search for a place where justice and happiness coexist without exploitation. Their departure signifies a refusal to accept a reality where ethical integrity is traded for collective pleasure. The existential quest of those who walk away underscores the search for a higher moral ground and the desire to find a place of true ethical alignment. It reflects the human yearning for a world where personal values and collective happiness are not in conflict. Their journey symbolizes the struggle to reconcile one's conscience with the demands of society and the pursuit of a more just and meaningful existence. The legacy of those who walk away from Omelas is complex and multifaceted. Their choice to leave creates a ripple effect, impacting how the remaining citizens perceive their own happiness and the cost of their contentment. While Omelas continues to flourish, the memory of the walkers lingers in the minds of those who remain, serving as a haunting reminder of the price of their happiness. Their departure leaves a void in the city's moral landscape, prompting ongoing reflection and dialogue about the ethical implications of their way of life. The story of their walk becomes a powerful symbol of resistance and moral questioning, challenging the city's inhabitants to confront the harsh realities behind their utopian facade. The legacy of the walkers highlights the enduring impact of moral choices and the importance of questioning ethical boundaries. It serves as a reminder that the quest for a just society is ongoing, and that the decisions of a few can influence the collective consciousness of many. Their legacy encourages a deeper examination of the moral costs of happiness and the continuous pursuit of a more equitable and compassionate world. As we conclude our journey through Ursula K. Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, we're left with profound questions about the nature of happiness, morality, and human ethics. Omelas is a city of unparalleled joy and beauty, where every celebration is a testament to the happiness of its people. Yet, this radiant existence is maintained by a deeply troubling truth: the suffering of a single, innocent child. The prosperity and joy of the entire city hinge upon this child's misery, a stark moral paradox that challenges our notions of fairness and happiness. Through the narrative, we witness the emotional turmoil of those who come to understand this harsh reality. Their choices, whether to accept the city's conditions or to walk away in search of something more just, highlight the complex interplay between personal integrity and collective well-being. The story asks us to reflect on the cost of our own happiness and the ethical compromises we might unknowingly accept. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes our comfort and joy come at the expense of others' suffering. In the end, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas is a powerful exploration of moral responsibility and the price of utopia. It challenges us to consider the true meaning of happiness and to question the foundations upon which our own sense of contentment is built. Thank you for joining us on this thought-provoking journey. If you enjoyed this story and found it insightful, be sure to subscribe to TKX Stories for more engaging and reflective tales. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring.